All right. Welcome, everybody, to the kickoff of the new show, man. The name of this show is Real Talk. And let me just tell you the inspiration behind how we even got here. So, poetry is my thing, public speaking is my thing. I love dealing with people. And it actually, it got to a point to where I have had so many different opportunities to deal in circles, meet with, shake hands with so many different amazing people. And don't get me wrong, we ain't even going front. Conversation is real talk. So everybody ain't been amazing, but everything has been a lesson. So throughout my journey, man, doing what I do, meet people, shake hands, kissing babies, the politics, starting businesses, failing businesses, starting businesses again, hosting shows, going through it with club promoters, working with artists, working with DJs, just everything that we've done, you know, everything I've done throughout my life. One of the things that I've always thought about is that it would be really dope if people actually got to see and have those conversations or even witness the conversation that I have with real people. And I ain't talking about the superstars, right? We always see the ones who've made it, the rich people talking about how hard their life is, and like I got to do 4 movies and I'm exhausted and I'm tired. you know, we're talking about the entrepreneurs who tell you, hey man, just do what you got to do. All you got to do is just make $1 million, and it's easy. Just put yourself to it. We always see those people. And we see it when they made it, but we don't hear their struggles. We don't know their story. We don't know the people behind the people who really do this shit. So my thing is this. I wanted to have real conversations with real people who 9 times out of 10 are everyday heroes. They the people that we look up to. They the ones that when we going through things who pick up the phone and call. Hell, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about the struggle that it takes for you to maintain your your mindset while you're moving throughout your day and not just lose your shit. Excuse my language. We're going to do a little better. You're not going to just lose your mind because you're trying to stay focused. You're working a job that you know ain't your end goal, but it serves a purpose, so you want it. You know what I mean? You in a relationship that you know should be better, but it's just not working. But you're trying. You know what I mean? Those people who get up and persevere regardless. Hell, I even want to talk to those who fail. Because let's be honest, at some point, we all have failed. So, the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is the ones who fail don't stop. And I'll share some quotes, some wisdom from some dope people in my life moving forward. But what I'm going to do right now is I am going to bring a young man that I want to have this conversation with, who has done a lot of things and persevered through a lot. But we're going to have a conversation because there's a lot about him I don't know. But at the same time, man to man, we're going to have this conversation. And if you have questions, if you're intrigued by what's being said, you have input, please put it in the comments. But I also want to let you know, be respectful in these comments. Because if you're being disrespectful or you're being rude, we'll kick you out and we'll block you. You know what I mean? We ain't got no space for that. Everybody's trying to win. So let's go ahead and bring this man to this stage. And or he might be calling me. So check this out. I'm going to bring this man to this stage and let's get it. There you go.
Ah, Big brother, what's happening, man?
Man, it gotta be you. How you doing,
Man, I'm
family?
hanging in there, bro. It's so good to see you, bro. It don't even make no sense, man. Like, just seeing you automatically takes me back to my sophomore year, I think your junior year, Rangeview. You know what I'm saying? When you was dancing for us, my first time ever performing in front of people. Remember that?
Wait, say it again.
You remember that?
I, line me up.
The talent show when I was rapping with Kevin Payton, and you came out and danced for us, and I forgot my verse, so you didn't really know when to come out. You know what I'm saying? And I had to look over there and be like, "Yo, come on," because I forgot my verse, and I started freestyling in front of everybody, and that was like I was a sophomore, so I think you must have been a junior or senior.
Now, here's the funny part. The fact that you said come out and dance for us, 95.5% of the people who know me is like, what?
Hey, you said it's real talk, right? It's real talk. Hey, let me
It
tell
is.
you. To
Now
Greg's
check it out.
people, let me tell you something. To Greg's people, that's why. Let me tell you something. This dude is one of the most phenomenal dancers in the Denver metro area. You understand what I'm saying? He was actually, because it was me, my homeboy Brian, and my homeboy Kevin. We was dancers, but we got that energy from this dude right here. You know what I'm saying? This dude was like super cold with it. We had him dance for us at a talent show. We was rapping. We was called the Nomads, and it was me and a whole bunch of people. But on stage that day, it was me and my boy Kevin, and this dude right here, dance for us, came out there and murdered things for us, man. So little reflection for you right there. You know what I mean?
And so here's the thing. We got to make sure that they understood. It wasn't the dancing that y'all see nowadays and the twerking and all of
No,
that.
sir.
It was the MC Hammer, the Big Daddy Kane.
No, yeah. We're talking about dancing. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And what made it so crazy, man, is that since you're bringing it up, I danced in school, and
Yeah.
what was so crazy is that I went to Rangeview, right?
Yep.
I took I actually did the dance class because it got me out of class. Now, not only was I in dance, I was gangbanging at the time in dance with braces.
Hey, long as business
Listen,
get handled, it don't matter how. You know what I mean?
hey, if you talk about a conundrum, brother, we was all of that. But back in that day, it was okay.
Yeah.
Like dancing was like the cool thing. I think we missed the jock era by a couple of years. So in that era, it was almost cool to be a gangbanger. Um, if you could dance, it was always good.
Yeah.
But we missed that jock era.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So it's been a very long time, brother. And then when we talk about the Rangeview days, now it's funny that you bring up the dancing because like everybody else kind of knew me for being like the borderline, the thug of Rangeview. Is there?
I
You know,
remember that. I remember that. But see, if you remember, like I was very disassociated with that element. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause there was a few dudes that was kind of feared. Like, yeah, that dude's one of them, and you was one of them dudes. Like, but see, the difference was you was one of them dudes, but you were still cool with everybody else though. Like that was you. You were the one that was able to provide the fusion between the two different worlds. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like we was all comfortable around you. We all knew what was up, but we was all comfortable around you because you was cool with us and you didn't like demonstratize us because we wasn't really in that world like that. You know
But
what
you
I
know
mean? And
what
that
it
was
was,
dope.
man. Like honestly, I hated bullies. I always hated bullies. You know what I mean? So, I used to try to bully the bullies. That was my thing.
Yeah.
And the cool people, if you was cool, you was cool because we was in the war, brother. That was back in the days where a lot of us was trying to fit into that mold, that NWA era because it was the new thing. We went from the red, the black,
Yeah.
and green. You know what I mean? To trying to be super thug just because it was the end thing to do and it was cool. And a lot of us got lost in that life, though.
Yeah, man.
A lot.
I can name a couple people that, yeah.
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 A lot of us got lost in that life. So, did you end up graduating from Rangeview, bro?
Yeah, I ended up going to Rangeview, finishing at Rangeview, and went to the Arizona State University, and that's how I went to college. I stayed in Arizona until 2013, which is when I moved here to Atlanta. So, yeah, I was
Now,
in Arizona for a minute.
okay, so you're in Atlanta now,
Yeah, I've been in Atlanta for 10 years now.
man. How you like it?
You know what, man? It's cool. When I first got here, it was like exciting. I was like, okay, I'm going to the ATL, the land of black opportunity, the land of black competition. Like I'm going to the Mecca. You know what I mean? And it was exactly that when I first got here. But I will say that I think since COVID, there have been some things that have kind of transformed it a bit. Like the crime is out of control right now. It's like really bad. You got to kind of look over your shoulder everywhere you go, which gets a little bit annoying every now and then. But it's still and by far the land of great black opportunity, the land of great black optimism and things like that. Of course, like any other city, you can get involved in your BS if you want to. You know what I'm saying? But life is about choices. So it definitely provides the proper level of opportunity and emotional and spiritual enhancement to those that seek it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a great place, man. Except for the fact that there's no snow. I miss the snow, and I'm having a problem with that because I'm a snow boy, so I can do snow every single day and be
Now,
happy. I don't get no snow in
listen,
Atlanta.
I miss seeing the snow. I don't miss being in it. I miss when I to be at the crib and it would snow.
Yeah.
But you know, man, I'm in Houston now,
Yeah.
so
No.
when I think about how cold it is in Denver and you know things of that nature, I was like, I'm gonna miss that. Then it got cold in
Yeah.
Houston, and I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
all I'm missing is the snow. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I
So,
miss the snow so bad, man. It's crazy.
so do you ever go back?
Yeah. So my sister and her children, and then my oldest brother and his family, they still in Denver. So I get out there whenever I can. Usually like once or twice a year, I try to get out there. I try to go in the wintertime if I can, you know, like
Yeah.
January, February, and go play in the
Okay.
snow and stuff like that. I've actually considered moving back there. It just hasn't materialized yet, but I would look at that opportunity if it presented itself.
Yeah. Okay. So check this out, man. You ended up going to college after high school. Now, for those who don't remember, first of all, Rangeview was not like a corny school. It
No,
just wasn't like the all blackest school.
not
But
at all.
we had some hard heads
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, we had a lot of hard. And the bad part about it is that we had the hard heads who were trying to be hard heads, so they were overcompensating. So we
Those are the
probably
most
had
dangerous ones. Yeah, those are the
yeah,
most dangerous kind. Yeah.
yeah. You know, it was like fighting the thug and the scary dude. You would always fight the thug because you knew what was coming. The scary one was the one you had to be worried about. We
Right.
had the scary, but you know, going from you know Rangeview in Colorado to college, man. What was your major? What did you study in college?
I studied atmospheric sciences and meteorology. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
so for those who didn't see the post when we were doing the promotion for the whole thing, you are a
I
meteorologist,
am.
and
Yeah.
and you actually have been on TV. And I don't know if you still currently on TV doing the weather and things of that nature.
Sometimes the
Mhm.
TV stuff is kind of sporadic for me at this moment. Like I'm doing mainly contract stuff, and the reason for that is because if I decided to take on a full-time responsibility as a meteorologist, then contractually I wouldn't be able to do anything else. And I haven't got to the point in life where I just want to do just that. I'm thinking maybe when I get older I may entertain that idea, but I'm just at the point still where I want to be able to do multiple things and you know be successful at multiple things because I'm still of course doing radio and I'm also the director of finance at a Mercedes-Benz dealership. So it's like, you know, so much stuff happening and I want to have that freedom to be able to dip into different things until I decide not to. But you got to think about it, man. I don't have a wife. I don't have children. So all I got is the drive to go and be as great as I possibly can and make sure my
Yeah.
mom and my grandma are good and, you know, that type of thing. So I think down the road when I get older and just don't feel like moving around so much, then maybe I'll, you know, take a full-time meteorology situation. But you know, it just depends. I've had some offers to do that, but again, it would sit me down for anything
Yeah.
else, and I'm not ready to do that.
Now, two things. So let's take it back. First of all, you said we're getting older.
Yeah.
You don't look a day over 32.
I appreciate it.
That's awesome. But you just celebrated a birthday, so happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you, sir.
How,
Thank you.
how old did you turn, brother?
48. Yeah,
um,
man. Mm-hmm.
First of all, if 48 looks like this, because I'm 48 as well,
Mm-hmm.
49 coming in May. You know, we look good, man. Because some of these
Man, I
young
be trying
cats
to convince
look
myself.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I be trying to convince myself of it, but you know how you see yourself different than other people see you. So I be like, I was at my mom's house the other day, matter of fact, and I was like, Mom, I was like, do I have wrinkles? I was like, because I know I gotta have some wrinkles. She's like, no, son, you don't have no wrinkles, and you're not gonna get none for a while. And I was like, are you sure? Because I feel like I look young, but I don't know what the outside perception is. You know what I'm saying? So she assured me, Mama assured me that I'm straight. So I was
yeah.
like, all right, you know, hey,
Hey, man,
it's
but
all
look,
good.
keep in mind, this is what 48 and 49 looks like for us. But do you remember when we was in high school, if somebody was 48, 49 years
Yeah,
old? You remember?
our parents. Like, think about it, our parents. Like, my mom is 25 years. My mom had me when she was 25, which when she was 25, if you know, I mean, she's 45 in high school. Yeah, so I'm thinking about that, and I remember her friends used to come to the house, and I'd be like, look at these old people over here listening to this old ass music. You know what I'm saying? And
We're the
drinking
old
old ass
people, bro.
cognac. You know what I mean? It's like I don't, you know, but times change, and you know, life changes, and the things that we experience, things that we do changes, and so I think that has kind of chilled out the aging process a little bit because life is different. You know what I'm saying? And now it's like, if you don't carry the years, then you don't carry the years. You know, and some people do carry the years. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and there's a lot of them that we see that you used to go to high school with, and you look at them and you be like,
damn.
yo, what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah.
So real quick, with you going to college and going away from Denver, was that your first time being away from the family full time?
It was. It was. It was hard. I remember, bro, like graduating, and I was going to play football. So I remember graduating, and I had to leave early. So I left like in, I think mid-June or late June or something like that to get ready to go to camp and all that. And I remember my mother like watching me pull out. She was standing on the porch and she was in tears. And that's when it kind of hit me because, you know, my mom and I are like this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And my father died when I was 9 years old. So it was me and my mom and my little sister, you know what I mean, as a unit in the house, you know. So I kind of became the man of the house at a really early age. And so leaving to go pursue, you know, success and all these things, it was tough. And when I first got there, yeah, you know, you have your support system and you have your coaches and your counselors and you meet new homies and you see the women and all that. And you have a vast support system, but it's still like, damn, is mama okay? Is my sister Jessica okay? Like you constantly think about that. And then, you know, we grew up in a place, man, where I would say we were kind of protected and shielded against a lot of real life being in Aurora at that time because we didn't really have a whole bunch of BS to deal with. Plus, we grew up around every type of person, which I think is dope. So it wasn't just black people. It wasn't just white people. Like we literally grew up around every ethnicity, every socioeconomic status, all of that stuff. And so it got me accustomed to just looking at people as people, right? But as soon as you leave the nest and you go out in the real world, you see how real stuff like prejudice is and all those type of things. And you start to experience it like, man, I didn't really grow up dealing with that. I knew it was there,
Right.
but I didn't have to really live in it too much. So I was able to assimilate in all kind of different environments and be comfortable. But to me, that was just natural.
Right.
So I think I got a big culture shock when I left home and started to experience some of the coldness of the world. You know what I'm saying? And some of the N-words and all that stuff and, you know, all that type of thing. And I was like, wait a minute, that kind of stuff really happens? Because I didn't grow up dealing with that. You know what I'm saying? We lived a really good childhood. We was in Aurora, Colorado. I was on East Atlantic Drive and went to Rangeview High School and walked 15 minutes to school and didn't have to worry about nothing. Didn't get no confrontations growing up. None of that type of stuff, really. You know what I mean? Like a couple spats here and there, but nothing, you know, out of the ordinary. But when you get out and go to college, you go in the real world, now you start meeting people from different environments.
Yeah.
Now you start meeting people who grew up as gangsters, meeting people who grew up, you know, without, meeting people who their parents were thugs and stuff like that. And so their mentality, everybody's mentality is so different. And so now you start to engage in conversation with these different types of people and you're like, oh, that's the way you think. Or you meet people that are super duper street smart, right? And they're watching stuff and you're like, what are they looking at? Next thing you know, something done popped off and you didn't even see it coming. Stuff like that. So you start to learn different people's ways and what they come from. And I'm thankful for it, but it was shocking. And it was tough to deal with for a minute.
Now, see, what was really different for me, man, is that I did go to Rangeview. I did grow up that way. But I was one of the few in my family who lived out that far, you know what I mean? And you're right. You know, we didn't have like that culture. That was just so prevalent. But you did have, like I said, you had people who was from the hood and you know, wanted to be thugs, so they did thug things. You know, I grew up in a family of them, you know what I mean? So I was one of the ones who probably was a little more rough around the edges than everybody else in school, you know, when you know, and all the cool kids was wearing the Levi's and all that kind of stuff. I might have been in the leagues, you know what I'm saying? But we made it look good, you know, and at the same time, I was scared of my mama, so I wasn't going to be too stupid. I wasn't going to be too crazy. I wasn't going to get out there and do it. But, you know, I was gangbanging in high school. And, you know, fortunate enough for me, I didn't choose the Crip or Blood thing. So, you know, it wasn't like I was just so far into the culture that it was bad. But what ended up happening is being in that space where you didn't have it around you. You didn't really see a lot of it. We created it. And we created what we thought it was. We created what we thought it would be because we didn't have it. So now you're looking at hard-headed teenagers who's out and about starting fights at other schools and just doing stupid shit because we thought that was what it was.
Right.
But then you get older, continuing to do that process, and then eventually you fall into real things.
Right.
And now you really meet some real gangsters from somewhere, and now you with them, and they really doing gangster stuff, and you wasn't cut from that. You know, you got parents, and I didn't have. You know, my mom did the best she could, and she was dope, but I didn't have no father, you know, on the crib like you. So, you know, now you running around with these men who are like father figures, you know, and all your lost homeboys, and y'all just doing what you think is the thing to do. But we out there being wild, man. There's so many people lost in the game. The Wesleys, you know, um, you know, Lelands, and all of them. You know, I mean, these cats had it
Yeah.
all. You
You
know,
know,
they had it
man,
all, and
I
showed a lot different.
funny enough, bro, I actually tried to find Wesley. I tried to Google Wesley and try to find him because I don't know if you remember, but Wesley was one of the gangbangers that took to me. He was one of the gangbangers that like kind of protected me and kept me like that. You know, you leave him alone. Like he was one of those.
Yeah,
And I remember after you remember when he got shot back in the
yeah,
day.
yeah.
I remember going when he got out the hospital. I remember going to his crib right after he got out the hospital, and the image that I saw,
With his head
and
caved in, and yeah, and it wasn't the Wesley that we knew.
it wasn't, and I never saw him after that. I don't know what happened to him after that or nothing, but yeah, that was so traumatic because that was the first time I had ever seen what a bullet does to a human body,
Yeah,
and you know I've seen it unfortunately a lot of times after that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But that was the first time I had seen that, and he would just sit on the couch like it wasn't no thing, and
yeah.
I was like,
Well, you
I
know,
think I knew
and the
then.
bad
I was
part
like,
about it was that that kind of made him a little more gangster in his mind,
yeah,
you know,
it
because
did.
he made it, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
look, for us who once again, you know, like it was, I can't, I want to say maybe it was one of my first experiences as well with somebody that was like your peer,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? The kind of, he was younger than me, but you know, we had to riot in school. We had to riots in school because of that,
yep,
you know. And I'm not saying who may or may not have started that.
yeah,
Nobody knows who did that,
right,
but the riots in school and everything happened because of that shooting stuff.
yep.
But no, that's actually when he got jumped. That
That's
was
when he
before
got
the
jumped.
shooting. That's when he got
Yep,
jumped in the park by the
yep,
east side of Lynchmont cast.
yep.
That that
Dang.
that that, that,
Wow.
that
I
that's where the
forgot
riot
about
started.
EILM. I forgot about them dudes. Oh,
Hey,
wow.
the craziest white boys ever who had access to pistols,
Yes.
guns, money,
Yeah.
and cars, and we was out there trying to fight. Well, we was whooping their ass for a while, but yeah, no, they wasn't to be messed with. Boy, that was stupid. But let's get to it real quick, man.
Mm-hmm.
You said your father passed away when you were 9.
9 years old. Yep.
How did that affect you moving forward, like as a man in your household? Like, did you feel? And I know it's kind of hard to think back at that 9 years old thing, but you know, let's be honest. You remember that feeling. You
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that if it was significant.
Yeah.
Did you feel at that moment, that it was you had to be the man now, that you had to take that place?
Well, a little deeper than that, you know, to be very transparent and bring you in, my father died from cancer. So as you know,
Mm,
cancer it takes a process, right? So
right.
you kind of watch the person basically deteriorate, you know. And my father, again, I come from a really strong, tight family. Father and I is like that, you know. He used to call me Tiger. That was my nickname to him. And I remember it was a year from his diagnosis to his death, right? And I remember the last time he was in the hospital. It was funny because I was outside playing one of my homies or whatever. I came home and my dad was real. This is about he had now been in and out of the hospital probably 3-4 good times. He was at the point where he was real sick and kind of frail and that kind of thing. So I
Mm,
get home from just being out playing basketball or something, and I go upstairs and he's like really not looking good. So I called 911. They come get him. That was the last time that he went to the hospital. He never came home after that. And I remember, I remember going to visit him, and this is maybe a couple of days before his passing, where it was hurting him so much they couldn't even bathe him.
mm,
Right, like when you touched him, he would scream. It was that bad. And then I remember sitting next to him, and I remember, you know, my mother kind of explained to me, like, okay, this is what's about to happen. My mother, you know, to her credit, she was so, bro, when I say she was so tough, she was, to this day, I still don't understand how she was able to do this. But my mother sat me down and actually explained to me what I was going to be looking at. You know, she explained to me, you know, this is what's going to happen from here. This is how this is going to go, son. You know, your father wants you to be strong. And I knew he did because he had told me. So I was kind of, I don't know how prepared at 9 you can be for something like this, but, you know, I should we say, preparing myself. And so the last time I saw him, I sat and I was sitting next to him, and he was at that stage where, you know, the process of death was beginning, you know, and stuff like that. And so I told him, I said, hey, don't worry about mom. I'm going to make sure she's okay. And I made that commitment to him at 9 years old, right? I was about to turn 10 the next month. I made that commitment to him at 9 years old on his deathbed when he was on his way, you know, to go be with Jesus. And that never left me. So when he did pass, I think it was a couple days after that, when he actually passed. The weird thing was the day that he passed, my mom didn't let me go. I think she knew that that was going to be the day. She didn't take me that. So the day that she took me, I think was her intent for me to see him for the last time at that day. You know, so like 2 or 3 days later is when he passed, and the commitment that I made to him stuck with me forever. You know what I mean? And so from that day, it was no longer about my own curiosities as much as it was my mom is going to be fine no matter what I got to do. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, when I tell that story to people nowadays, they be like, how does a 9-year-old make a commitment like that? Even my grandmother today and my mother today, they tell me all the time, you know, son, you made this commitment and that wasn't fair to you, you know, but look at what you've done. And they always hit me with that. Look at what you've done and look at us and we're okay. And, you know, I retired my mother in 2014 and I bought her a house in 2008. And so these are things that I'm proud of. But to go back, to me, that was a commitment that I knew I would never forget, because to me, my dad was my idol. And so it was always going to be, I got to make sure he's proud because I know he's watching me all the time. And if I let him down, or if I feel like I'm letting him down, then I feel like a failure. And I didn't want to feel like no failure. So
now hold that right there. Being a young man without a father, you know, even though you had your father up till you were 9, but being a young man without a father and going through this process of learning how to be a man, right? Because we go through that failure process.
Right.
Were there times that you knew in your soul that you was letting them down, and if you did, how did you maneuver through that process?
Man, that's a great question. There were definitely times where I felt like, I don't think he'd be too proud of me right now, or I felt like he would have wanted me to do that a little different. You know what I'm saying? And the weird thing about it was, in those times, and I go through that a lot, but in those times, that concept of me wanting him to be proud is always what snaps me back into work mode. It's the one thing that says, nope, can't do that. Learn from that mistake, extract whatever lessons you can from that, and now we're going to go this way. Because the goal is to make sure that mama and grandma and my sister and my nieces and nephews, that all of them are good. That's the whole goal. And so, you know, it was always little things I would do, like maybe failure. You know, we all go through failures in life, and we all go through, damn, I didn't get to accomplish that. And if he was here, I probably would have. Now, another thing that's always been kind of rested in me is, I always wonder what kind of man I would have been had he still been here, or had he been here till I was 18, 19, 20, or whatever the case is. And I know that it would have been different, but I can't be mad at it because it wasn't his fault. It was God's call. This is what God wanted. And so that's what it is. You don't question what God does.
No.
So
when you say it would have been different, what do you feel would have been different about it?
So I am, because I was raised by women primarily, my mother, my grandmother, right? Especially during the impressionable years. I'm a little more of a sensitive, emotional person. And I know that if my father was there longer, I probably wouldn't be as sensitive, because my dad was like, you know, he was the epitome of power. He was the epitome of, you know, being a man, you know, and my father was, this is the way things are going to get done. This is how you execute. This is what comes from execution. All the rest of that stuff don't matter. You know, he didn't let any outside sources bother him emotionally and stuff like that. And I've always been the opposite. I've always been, man, I need people to like me, and I want people to feel like I'm awesome. And if they don't, then I feel like it's a reflection of my effort and all that type of stuff. So I've had a lot of struggles with that over the course of my progression as a man that I probably wouldn't have had as much of had I had more experience with him. Now, with that said, my oldest brother, who's 16 years older than me, became kind of what I would look at for that type of a role. But you got to remember, my oldest brother had his own family, so I wasn't like dialed into him every single day over the course of the process. You know, I'm his brother, not his son, so it's different. You know what I'm saying? But he still was able to provide the example of what it's supposed to look like, because he is very similar to our father,
right?
And I can see it in him. And I'm more of like, you know, things affect me more. Again, you know, I care a lot about what everybody thinks and all that. And my father, I can tell you right now, would probably have checked me like crazy on those type of things, and probably would have been able to mold me a little bit differently, especially during those impressionable years. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Now,
there's a
now, now, you and see you're hitting things, and you keep moving, and I'm grateful to hear, just your story, because even though we were in the same spaces, we crossed paths, and we I wouldn't have known any
yeah,
of this, right?
yeah,
And so one of the things that I want to kind of touch on is the fact that when you were talking about like being raised by women, you're emotional, you're more sensitive than what you would have been if you had a masculine man around. And of course, nowadays they talk about that toxic, masculinity and all that kind of, which I don't necessarily agree with, but this is not this platform to have that conversation,
right,
right?
right,
We grew up in an era where men are men. This is what you do. This is
right,
how you move. Don't cry. You da 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 da.
right,
And we realized that, and I got to be honest with you, I didn't grow up with my father around either. He wasn't dead. But the truth about it is that in my years, the youth, he was, because he wasn't around. And for me, that was the most hurtful thing, is that he's still alive but unreachable.
right,
Someone who chooses to be dead to their son.
yeah,
I grew up with a complex of, how could anyone really love me and want me if my own father who's here doesn't? So
yeah,
I grew up kind of like you, but then I grew up with women who were around me who knew I didn't have that father figure, so they used to make me the man of the house. They used to make
gotcha,
me the man of the family, which I really appreciated. Don't get me wrong, but it grew me up way too
yeah,
quick, and I had these responsibilities to take on this man role. And there's a lot of men nowadays who are our age or who are out here right now who tend to look down on that statement that you made. And like you had said, like, I might have been different, but the thing about it is that you're beautifully crafted the way you are, because you did have that emotional side, that sensitive side. It allowed you to see, feel, and do probably a lot more. Maybe in a different space or a different way. But I still think that you would have been, the same amazing man with your father being there as you are now. And I think that being raised by a woman or having a woman influence is not necessarily a bad thing, because this is what happened to me. I was raised that way. I was raised by women. Granted, I became a poet, so you could imagine,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I'm way emotional. I could tell you how I feel, da 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 da. But then also, I grew up having to be the man, so I could tell you how I feel. But I'm also ready to fight
right,
you, you know.
right,
Um, and that was just that culture. But I think that a lot of men are scared to admit that it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to have that, that those emotions, that sensitive side, because that's what connects you to your family, your mother, your sister,
yep,
and your wife when she comes,
yep,
or the relationships that you have. That's what taps you into that feminine energy. And it ain't about being that. It ain't about playing that role. It ain't about trying to pretend to be, but it's really about just being okay with that.
yeah,
And, with you moving to Atlanta, brother, and being amongst all of these different people, different spaces, different, everybody doing something. How did you create your own? And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump so
no,
far, but how did you create your own identity? You know, coming from a space where you know you didn't have that guidance for such a while, and then you hadn't left home, and then now you're in this space. How did you create your own identity in that?
I think the main ingredient to that, man, was I was always authentically me, right? Even when my career in radio started in 2001, when I was in Phoenix, one of the things that they used to tell me that made me, I guess, a standout or whatever they used to say was, you're the same guy on and off the radio, right? And that was one thing I always was told. And I was always like, well, I mean, what else am I supposed to be? Like, it was unbeknownst to me that you get on there and you become a different person. I didn't know how to do that. So I think the thing for me was remaining true to who I was. So I never claimed to be something I wasn't. I didn't come on like, yeah, I'm thugnificent. None of that. Like, it was like, look, this is me. I'm from Denver, Colorado. Grew up in Aurora. Let's talk about whatever you want to talk about. Yes, things do affect me. Yes, I care about what people think. Yes, I care about being articulate. I care about being versatile and all these things. So all the stuff that mattered to me, I make sure that anybody I interact with knows that those things matter to me. And you get different energies from that, you know, because you do have people that maybe have a certain perception because of the way you move or the way you talk or the way you dress or the way you present yourself, but have never had a conversation with you. So then when they talk to you, you're like, wait, they're like, I didn't know you were like that. Like, that's
Yeah.
weird. And I'm like, well, I don't know why it's weird, because I'm just being authentically me. So I think the main thing, to answer your question, was I never tried to like fit in anybody else's mold. You know what I'm saying? Even if that mold looked attractive to me, because
Right.
trust me, there's times I look at people like, damn, I wish I was renowned like that person is. I wish I was like viewed and respected like that person is. But if I go try to be that person or fit into their mold, and I'm not like organically fitting there, then it's uncomfortable, because you got to continue to perpetuate this situation on and on and on and on. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do that, man. So, you know, hopefully I can get credit for being a nice person, and I can get credit for, you know, being respectful and all those things. I mean, I just kind of kept it as that. So
you know what's crazy is that you actually just gave them the cheat code. Um, the cheat code, and you know, you hear people say it, and you get these little glimpses of everything, and they say, you know, you could never be like somebody, like you'll never be the first somebody else, but you could always be the original you,
yeah,
right? And one of the things that even in my career with what I've done, because I've done radio, some TV stuff, and you know, all that kind of thing, and in interviews, you know, one thing that they've always said is like, yo, like you're how I got the poetry name, reality, like you real, like you a real dude. But
yeah,
the thing about it is I was comfortable in my skin. And I was comfortable with my failures. I was comfortable with my insecurities. I was comfortable with what it was, and it didn't matter. I was okay with it. And for a lot of these young, not even young, because we ain't even going to talk about the youth. Let's talk about our peers.
yeah,
For a lot of these men, these grown men who are still trying to find their way, who are still trying to fit in and fit this mold, or, you know, trying to be like the Joneses, you know, the most authentic thing about somebody is them being their self. And
yep,
if I think if a lot of us could be open about just being vulnerable with who I am.
yeah,
Because see, if I'm vulnerable and I put all of my stuff in front of you, you can't hurt me. I give you
yeah,
all of me. So anything that you do with me, I giving it access. You can't hurt me. But being vulnerable and just being yourself, man, I think that's the cheat code. And so many people get caught up in that, get caught up in chasing the fallacies of everything else and everybody else.
yeah.
And, you know, with you being in the radio and TV and things like that, because if you go through your profile, you've seen that you dealt with some big artists, some big names and things to that
Mm-hmm.
nature. Did you ever see yourself in that space, or did you always know you was going to be in that space, or was it like one day you looked up and was like, yo,
Bro, like, the only people, let me say this the right way. I never thought that I would be in that space, but if you ask people that I grew up with, you know what I'm saying, the Brian Pryors and the Marcus Stantons and you know, Coy Bings and all the people that we grew up with, they
yeah,
used to always, they were the ones that were always like, man, JJ's gonna do something when it comes to entertaining people. Or so. I never thought that, right? My
mm,
mother, she's done some interviews. I think Jet Magazine interviewed my mom about me a couple of years ago, and they were doing some feature on their digital platform about me, and she told them that she knew it when I was like 5 years old. And I was like, not me, I didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always knew I had a lot of personality. I always knew that I liked attention, you know what I'm saying? Which I think that's part of that sensitivity in me. Like, I always needed to know I had an audience, you know, because I've always been more comfortable if I had an audience than I am if I feel like I'm just amongst like regularity. Like, that kind
yeah,
of is weird. And I've always been that way. But if you would have asked me, you know, when we were in, you know, I was a freshman in high school or whatever, hey, you know, are you going to have a long radio TV career? I'd have been like, nah. You know what I mean? So
brother.
other
I,
people may have noticed it. I didn't.
I hate to hold you on this, but I'm probably going to give the difference of opinion on that, because you always was the jokester. Like, you know, like you always had jokes. You always stood out in the room, which is one of the reasons that me and you was always cool. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Because you were always a funny guy. And like,
Yeah.
and I'm not talking about like trying to crack jokes. You were humorous. You had a hell of a personality.
Yeah.
So I could see that. I could definitely see that. So when you first, so did you know it was coming, or how did you get into that space, and what did it feel like when it
Okay.
hit you?
So you gotta be ready for this story. Now this is I hope everybody's sitting because this story trips me out every time I tell it, right? So look, I go to Arizona State University. I'm playing football, right? At
Yeah.
this time is where you remember like MTV Spring Break and like the college tours where you would go for your spring break to Mexico and they put everything on MTV and you had remember
Right.
that? So my freshman year at ASU, you remember Brian Pryor, right?
Mhm.
Me, Brian Pryor, and my homeboy that I had met in college, we took the college trip and went to Mazatlan. We go to Mazatlan, we hanging out for the week. You know, we being us, we being congenial dudes, just having a good time. And the
First of all, I
staff
love the
members,
fact that you use the word congenial. Continue.
yeah.
Go ahead.
And so the staff members that were there took a liking to us because we were just, you know, wow. Not in a bad way, but we were just wow. And so they took a liking to us. So we hung out with them for the rest of the trip. So come back to Arizona, go back to school, go to start spring football, whatever. The next year for spring break, we go back again, but this time we go to I think it was Acapulco, and we went back again, and the same staff members were there with some other ones. So now we meet the new ones, and they hanging out with us, blah 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 blah. So we come back. I get a phone call when I get back to Arizona from the staff member that I got real cool with, who proceeds to tell me, his name is Jay. Shouts out to Jay. He proceeds to tell me that they were having meetings. You know, they post meetings after it's all over or whatever, and everybody kept bringing me up like, yo, this dude was real cool, him and his boys, let's see if he wants to be on staff. So they reached out to me and said, hey, the next year would you like to be one of our staff members? And I was like, yeah, cool. I got it passed off as an internship, right? So the next spring break I went, and I was now a staff member, so I had to be there for 2 weeks.
Now, first of all, let's not take back that this is a paid, like your whole trip is paid for at this point,
Yeah, your
correct?
trip is paid for, but you ain't making no money, but your trip is paid for.
That's
And
the
I got
money.
it packed. That's good as money because you're in Mexico for 2 weeks with a bunch of beautiful women from across the country and you having fun. Bet. You know what I'm
And you're
saying?
sad.
So, I mean, what? You know what I'm
You
saying? So
have
we
the
chilling.
badge.
Right. And I'm 20 years old. This is perfect. You know what I'm saying? So I go out there. So now I'm the staff member. You remember them super soakers, the one that had the backpack, the big water
Yeah.
gun? I was the dude that walked around with that, but it was filled with tequila and Sprite. So, so they used to call them tequila poppers, right? So I would walk around and I'd spray all the women in the mouth with my super soaker and get them drunk, and it was like the thing, like you know what I'm saying. And I was shooting from like 40 feet out, like it was so much fun. You know what I'm saying? Just I'd be on stage and I'd be shooting people. You know, they'd go crazy over that. Spring Breakers is different. So,
Yeah.
but the other thing that I was doing, which is where it gets real, is I was on the microphone being the MC at the parties during the spring break stuff. That just kind of happened. Now, here's one moment that transformed everything. You remember the song from Eminem, My Name Is? My Name Is. Okay. That song was like the biggest record in the country at the time. And I knew every word to it. And so what started happening was we'd be at the parties, that record would come on, and you got 4,000 college students singing it, but I was leading the charge. So I'm rapping the record and doing call and responses to the partiers and stuff like that. And that was the birth of me as an MC, as a club MC. That was the birth. So I come back to Phoenix. When I'm back in Phoenix, I'm in like a bar, like a lounge type of environment. I'm tired. I've been in Mexico for a couple of weeks. I've been going at it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm chilling. And the DJ, his name is DJ Flavor. Shout out my brother DJ Flavor. I started having a conversation with him, and he was like, "Yo, you the dude that was doing some of the spring break stuff on MTV for the college?" I'm like, "Yeah." And we started talking and vibing. And I said to him, I said, "You don't have no MC. You just DJ." He was like, "Nah." And he told me, "Hey man, why don't you come be my MC at my club nights?" And I was like, "Bet." So now wherever he's at, like a Thursday night, Friday night, whatever, right? I'm his MC. Now, mind you, I'm still finishing up at Arizona State. Plus, I'm selling cars at the time if it's off season or whatever, because by this time I got hurt, couldn't play football no more. So that part of my life was over with. So now I'm the club MC for him on the nights he's whatever, but I'm also selling cars at a Nissan dealership. And I'm still finishing up school. So fast forward maybe about a year, I'm doing that. I'm MC for him, you know, whatever. So one particular night, by this time, I was actually cool with the dude that was the evening personality on Power 92 in Phoenix, dude named Big Willie. Rest in peace to Big Willie. I used to go places to hang out with him because he had a relationship with these promoters that were running the stuff that DJ Flavor, the dude that brought me in the game, was the DJ at. So I knew all of them. So one particular night, it's a Saturday night, there's a concert in town. The concert is Pink, Shaggy, and Ludacris. This is when Ludacris was first coming out. What's Your Fantasy was a smash, right? And Southern Hospitality was coming out. It was bubbling, right? So they're on tour. The after party for that tour is at the club that I'm the MC at. It's about 2,000 people in the club. It's called Leinenkugels, right next to the baseball arena in Phoenix. It's a double level joint. And I'm MCing. And I look out the corner of my eye, and there's this dude that's standing there looking at me. He's like bobbing his head. He's looking at the crowd. I mean, I got the place. I ain't gonna front. The place is rocking, right? Flavor is a beast, and I'm just feeding off of him. We got the place going crazy. So the dude whose name is Bruce St. James walks up to me and says, "Hey man, this is Zach Works." He goes, "Hey, can you do that on the radio?" And I was like, "Do what? What do you mean?" He was like, "This. Can you do this on the radio?" And I was like, "I mean, I guess I could." And this is a Saturday. He says, he gives me his card. He says, "I need you to come see me on Monday." Okay. I go see him on Monday. Oh, back up a little bit. Another thing that turned him crazy was me and Shaggy at that night got into a freestyle battle in the club. Me and Shaggy get into a nice, healthy freestyle battle in the club.
Now, not on the mic though.
Yeah, we going back and forth on the mic. Yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. We had a ball. We going nuts. So that's what everything's like. So I go see Bruce on Monday, and in his office is him. It's the music director, whose name is Charlie Weddle. Shouts out Charlie Weddle. And it's the assistant music director named DJ Mikey Mike. Shout out to Mikey Mike. They're all sitting in an office, and I walk in and sit in this office, and I'm talking to these guys. And they said to me, "You know what, man? We feel like you have it. Whatever the word it means, we feel like you have it, and you'd be nice on the radio." And I was like, he goes, "Would you be interested?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I knew nothing, I knew nothing about radio. Nothing. Right? I grew up, of course, listening to KS 107.5 when we was in high school and stuff, which is crazy that I'm on that station now. That's a whole nother ball game. But anyway, so I knew nothing about radio, right? So I'm like, all right, yeah, I would look into it. They have me come in and sit in with the overnight job, dude named Big Ben and a girl named Karina. Shouts out to both of them. They taught me how to actually work the board and all that and show me how all that works. And I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, yo, all of this goes into being on the radio. It looks like this overwhelming spaceship of stuff and buttons and all this. So I sit there a couple of overnight shifts with them. Now, mind you, I got to go right from there to go change and go to work in the morning because it's 1 to 5 in the morning. I'm sitting there learning from them for about 3 or 4 days. So then I get a phone call maybe 3 or 4 days later from Bruce again, Bruce is the program director of Power 92, right? Bruce says, "So what do you think?" And I'm like, it's a lot, but it seems like it'd be cool. He goes, "Cool. Tonight, I want you to do a talk break." I was like, what? Now I'm nervous. I'm like, oh, he wants me to talk on the radio. Like, oh shit. Like, wait, what? So, okay, cool. So I go in there. So Big Ben is in there. He's like, okay, when you get ready to talk, you push this button, do your talk break. January 31st, 2001 was the first time I did a talk break on the radio. And from there, it just went.
So let me tell you what's so crazy about this. First of all, that's amazing, right? Because you gave this timeline of how everything kind of led into something else. And what it ended up being was never what you were doing at the moment. It always escalated to something else.
Yep.
Now, for somebody like me, right, my poetry story is pretty much the same, you know, and I ended up getting into managing and working with DJs, national DJs, and then, you know, interviewing people and stuff like that. It kind of falls through that same line. But the way that you got to radio, first of all, is amazing. Congratulations, brother. Second of all, for somebody who has always aspired to be, because like even now, like my goal is to get to radio, right? I get so irritated with people because, you know, the poetry and being on stages and stuff, I've done some amazing things. I've met amazing people. It's, you know, to be able to stand on that stage and command a room of and inspire and emotion and pull that. Like it's something. But one of the things that kind of pushed me towards radio for me was that I could literally be standing in line at the grocery store, man, and I'll be looking at somebody in their face and they'll look at me and turn around. But I'll get a call and I'll start talking and they'll turn around and be like, hey, you that poetry dude, I know your voice.
Wow.
And it was like you were looking dead at me. They're like, yeah, but I know your voice. You know what I mean? And it got to the point where everybody used to just remind me, like, hey, I know your voice. And so that's when it became my moniker, The Voice, Mr. Reality, because it was like, yeah, you the poetry dude.
Yeah.
I know your voice. You got a voice for radio. You should be on radio. And I was thinking, like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Like, sure, I'm going to do it. Yeah, my path wasn't and has not made it yet to be like how it was yours. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm going to get there at some point. But just the way that things had kind of escalated for you and got to that point, man, you talking about God having his hands on you?
Absolutely.
Because
absolutely.
That literally was a stepping stone just to keep moving.
Yeah.
Now, at any point during that process, did you feel discouraged, like maybe you can't do it?
That's a great question. Let me think. I don't think I ever had a thought that I couldn't do it. What I started to wonder was how far was I going to be able to go? I started to study personalities that were like major radio stars, like Big Tigger and Greg Street and Ryan Cameron and Wendy Williams and Big Boy, you know what I mean? And Funk Master Flex and, you know, all these big time personalities. I started to study them and I started to look at these personalities that were making a whole bunch of money and had a whole bunch of notoriety, Angie Martinez, like these type of people. And I used to be like, I don't think I have what they have. Whatever that is, I don't have what they have.
No, what did you think they had? What is it that you
I thought it was a mixture of things. I thought it was a mixture of right place at the right time, a whole lot of swag, a whole lot of connections and networking, right? And then a whole lot of work ethic that nobody else noticed or saw, because it takes a lot of work ethic and patience and the ability to deal with rejection and all that type of stuff to get to certain big places in life. Like that's, whether it's radio or whatever, that's what it takes to get to an accelerated level of success. So I would look at those situations and be like, well, I'm in Phoenix, and Phoenix showed me so much love. Like Phoenix was the place where I became a man. Really, it's the place that they watched me grow. They supported me, you know what I mean, like crazy. They propelled me to the certain heights and things like that, and they gave me the confidence that I needed to be able to crack the microphone every day and feel like I was viable. You know what I'm saying? Because again, you got to remember, I was always the guy that cared about what people think about him. So I would use how you think about me, and I still do to this day. I use how you think about me as a meter to tell me how valuable I am. Does that make sense?
Now, do you think you could have done the same thing in Atlanta that you did in Arizona?
Absolutely. I just think the timing, when I came to Atlanta in 2014, that was actually the goal. I was like, okay, if I get on V103 in Atlanta and I blow up on V103 in Atlanta, it's game over. It's game over. And the funny thing was, over the course of my career in Phoenix, people should always tell me, like, man, if you get to Atlanta, you're going to kill it because of the way you sound, because of your vibe, your swag. And I was always like anywhere and out the other, like, yeah, I'm never going to go. Do you know how many big names are? You got Wanda Smith in Atlanta. You got Ryan Cameron. You got these Greg Street, these big ass names in Atlanta. Like, that's not going to happen. But then it started to get to the point where I was able to come here. But the whole situation of me coming here and taking off was based off the wrong timing, because I came here when the roster of V103 was so cemented and so concrete with so much history and experience and celebrity and all of that, that I ended up coming in and being the sixth man basically at the radio station. And I held my own. Like, I got a lot of respect from the full-time talent there, but it never was able to materialize for me to become that here. But if I did get the opportunity, I think it would have been monumental. Absolutely. And I'm not saying it still won't happen. I'm just, because I'm still at V103 now, but I'm only on if Big Tigger's out. If he can't do the morning show, I do the morning show.
Yeah.
And so, if that
But you make that sound like
opportunity,
that's a small thing, though. Wait, stop. Like, yeah, I do the morning show, but yeah.
yeah, it's just, it's when you're, it's just different. You know what I'm saying? It's different. Like, yeah, it's an amazing opportunity. But to me, I look at it like, um, there's always a bigger summit. There's always like, yeah, I could do this, but I know I could really do that. And if given that opportunity, oh man, the top gonna blow off the place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just a higher level of expectation that I've always had for me.
But right.
That's all.
So first of all, that ambition is what makes you different than a lot of people.
Okay.
Because you could have made it to that goal of being on that radio station and saying, "Hey, I always said I was going to do this. I'm good. Yeah, yeah. Look at me
Yeah.
go now. Floss and stick my chest out." But it's like, yeah, I'm here, but it ain't where I need to be.
Right.
So, one of the things that I was going to ask you is that being on the morning show, even though it is the radio, and not even though it's the radio in Atlanta morning show, because of things like iHeart and all that kind of, the internet, like that radio show is global, correct?
Sometimes. So basically, yeah, because now you can get any radio station on an app. So I know,
Yeah,
like, even like right now I'm on KS 107.5 in Denver every day, right? And you can listen on the Odyssey app from anywhere in the world. So you can access any major radio show from your phone at this point,
yeah,
regardless of where you are.
brother, you're global. You're a global talent. Holy
I mean,
shit.
never looked at it that way, but I guess if you say it like that, that's kind of actually
Well, I mean,
that's pretty
they call me
enlightening.
real for a reason. I just want to let you know, add it to your resume.
You know what? Noted.
Add
Because
it to your
I
resume.
didn't really look at it that way. But now that you said that, I guess that's true.
No,
Damn,
it's
that's
not.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, you are a global talent, and the bad part about it is that you probably have fans and things, and I'm sure you get some of the Instagrams and some of the things to where they follow you. So when COVID hit, I did the online poetry,
Okay.
and K-Tone pushed me to do it. He was really heavy on me. Real, you got to get on there. People is missing your voice. You got to get on. I did the online thing, and it was crazy because I would have 9 viewers on from Colorado and
Yeah.
100 people on from New York, Baltimore, Cali, France, Ghana, like all hours of the night, people was
Yeah.
on. And what I had to realize at some point is that there were people in Europe who knew my name. You know,
Damn. Yeah.
there was
That's
people
dope.
in Africa who waited for my show to come on, and literally, people who was in, England and would wake up at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning to get on my show. You
Yeah.
know,
That's dope.
that's what I'm saying. So you are a global talent, brother, and that's first of all, wow. But what is your main goal? What's your overall goal with
Man,
this?
the answer to that question, bro, changes almost every day, right?
Mhm.
Um, as I continue to mature, your focuses become different. Like it goes from I want to pull up this way to I want to be recognized everywhere. It goes from that to okay, well, I just want to have a certain level of financial security. It's like all of these different things that change it. But I think the best way for me to put it is my goal at this point is to feel internally, regardless of what anybody else tries to convince me of. I want to feel internally like I made a difference. That's my goal. I don't want nobody else to convince me and say you do make a difference if I don't feel it. You know what I'm saying? Because my measure of what that looks like is different than other people's measure of what that looks like. So the goal for me is to be able to tell myself with 100% authenticity that, bro, you made a difference. Because
Now,
I think everything else comes from that. Like the money comes from that, the attention, all of that comes with that. If you
right,
really make a real difference, the rest of that stuff comes with
all
that.
right.
So to me, I want to be able to wake up and say, I made a difference and they're gonna remember me. You know what I mean? That's it.
So with that being said, this show, the concept of it was kind of based on mental health,
Yeah.
right? And it's adult
Yeah.
mental health. Um, I realized when I was doing the live during COVID, how many broken people are in the world, and in the process of going through this and seeing these people and learning these people, I also realized that I myself was broken in a lot of ways.
Likewise.
And you know, I'm not going to put you out there, man, and I'm not judging you by any means. But when you say that, you know, your goal is to know yourself, that you have made a difference. For me, I wonder if you will continue to move the needle, you know, every time you get close, just because the ambition of wanting a little bit more. And then that also makes me question or wonder, not even question, it makes me wonder that how do you feel currently when people are telling you that you've made a difference? Man, you came from Rangeview, you on the radio, like you do this stuff, you were on MTV, you stood on stages. There was people who never even, brother, there's people that we know that didn't even, you know, get into their 20s, you know, people who were gone, dead and gone, but more or less haven't seen the world, you know what I mean? That you've done a lot. And for me, like, I guess my question would be is, do you ever stop and celebrate your victories? And not only your victories, but do you give yourself the credit for reaching those goals? Because if you're always looking for the next thing, then 9 times out of 10, you're not aware of where you're standing until you're behind it, you know, until it's behind you.
Yeah.
So do you ever applaud yourself and just stop and give yourself the credit for being amazing, and know that in this moment, like right now, that I'm sure, I'm positive that there are thousands of people who you have inspired in some way. Well, 1,001, including me now.
Yeah.
Are you able to receive that, or is that just in one ear and out of the other because it's not your goal?
You know, for you to ask that particular question at this particular moment is very piercing. And the reason why it's piercing is because that is the main struggle that I have at this moment in life. I'm actually asked and told that by multiple people that are like, even including my grandmother, right? Who say the same thing that you're saying. And the honest answer I can give you is no, I do not. And I think the reasons for it is kind of stacked. One of the reasons is I don't see myself as that, right? I don't see myself as successful or necessarily all that accomplished. I don't see myself that way. And I think the reason for that is it depends on what you deem as successful, right? What are you looking at to judge what that looks like? What are you looking at to judge what type of impact that you've had? And to me,
I mean, would you want a school named after you or something? Like,
so that's kind of what I'm getting at. So to me, it's not about being on the radio. It's about being the most recognizable person on the radio. It's about being the person that made the most money on the radio. It's about being the person who everybody comes to, who's got 5 million followers. And it's that position that I'm so far away from for me to look at myself in that way. But more important than that, one of the reasons I don't feel like I celebrate those things is because I don't feel like I've gotten there. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like that extra accomplished person. You know what I'm saying? And so when you say that to me, it's really got a lot of octane in it, because when I hear things like that from people that like I respect, it kind of slaps me in the face a lot, because I know that I don't celebrate what people would think would be advancements the way that I should. But I think the problem with it is because mentally, I'm not convinced that it's really a celebratory thing yet. You know what I mean? And that's a constant struggle that I have, because trust me, my best friend in the world tells me that all the time. Like, bro, like my birthday was this past Saturday, and I didn't really care. Like, I didn't, you know what I'm saying? I'm at the house chilling, and he's like, bro, you're not celebrating you. And I'm like, there's nothing to really celebrate. You know what I'm saying? And so other people look at that.
man,
Like,
we about to get into it. I'm glad we got here. So
yeah,
this
man.
is the part of the show we was talking about. We had to get into it for the real talk. You ready for this real talk?
Yeah.
Real talk. This show came from me because I got a call out of the blue from uh, my guy, Young Doe, the originator of Living Decent. Um, this the Elite Entertainment, Young Doe, somebody, book writer,
Yeah.
business mogul. Like, he called me out of the blue, brother, and he said, "Hey, real, you've been on my mind, and I just wanted to hit you up, man, and let you know that, regardless of what time it is, because it was late." He's like, "Regardless of what time it is, man, you crossed my mind. I just want to let you know, man, I appreciate you, brother. You've been doing a lot. You did some amazing things, man, and I'm proud of you." And keep in mind, me and Doe always had the utmost respect. Like, that's my
Yeah.
guy. We didn't really click in. We didn't really run in the same circle. We had a lot of the same friends and things like that, but we was always had the utmost respect. Family always considered that. And when we would run into each other, we would like literally step aside from everybody and talk in depth for hours and then be like, "Yo, you one of the only people I could chop it up like that with." And he's so authentic, but the man is so successful, so driven, so ambitious. For him to call me out of the blue and say, "Real, you know, I appreciate you, brother." This is what inspired me to do this show, because it was like, what are you doing with your voice? What are you doing with your talent?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I realized, man, is that there's people like you and I, Doe, K-Tone, who do these things and try so hard to just do them, but you're so busy working that you never remember to actually feed your soul.
Yeah.
And so I've had the privilege to be able to step away from that, man. I moved to Houston, and then I came to Houston to expand my mobile app. I created the first Black on-demand mobile app ever. I was supposed to be rich a long time ago. Oh my God, look, I did it. I built the app. I got funding. I did it. All of that. Got to Houston, man, and everything failed. And I came from a place where everybody knew my name, where I could walk into the club and I knew the club owners. I got the bartender the job. I got the doorman. I got them the job there. Everybody loved Real. I came to a place where nobody knew who I was and nobody
Yeah.
cared. And I wasn't a king in an empty space no more. I was a lion amongst other lions. I was a king amongst kings, and I didn't stand out the way that I appreciated and valued.
Yeah.
But and I'm gonna keep it 100 with you, bro. What's really frustrating in a sense to when people who struggle to even be seen or heard watch somebody like you who have done so much and moved so far, and you're like, yeah, nah, I'm not. I haven't done anything yet, because these are the same people that would even love to just be in your space.
I understand
And
that. Yeah.
and one of the things that I think would, and this is just me personally, man, and I'm not trying to be no psychiatrist and none of that.
Yeah. No.
But one of the things that I really think would really help with you being able to be in this moment, man, and appreciate who you are, is to turn that voice off in your head, man, and open your ears and let them people love on you. Hear it when they actually tell you that you have been amazing. When your mother tells you that you did what your promise was at 9, I want you to be able to hear that. But not only that, man, I want you to look at those people who wait for you to get on that radio show. I want you to remember those people who've seen you on MTV, who was like, "Oh my God, I went to school with him. Like, he was so cool." I want you to think about the fact that I'm having a conversation with a radio meteorologist personality who I went to school with, that, I could look at now and be like, "Man, that man has done some amazing things." Because I could have been at your funeral. You could have been
Very true.
at mine.
Yeah.
We could have met at Leland's funeral
Yeah.
and had this conversation about what you're doing now, what you've been doing, and how you're moving. But, man, I also want you to remember that same guy who was comfortable with who he is also needs to be comfortable with applauding who he is, because you are amazing, brother, and you did it, and you're doing it. Now, just because you acknowledge where you at don't mean that you're done. But I want you to stand still at some point, man, and look around you and just know that this is your blueprint, and you are right in alignment, and you deserve to be there. And pat yourself on the back every fucking chance you get, because what we've learned, and excuse my language, but in this world, if you don't celebrate you, man, nobody will. And
Right.
God forbid that you got to be in a place where you you wish you would have.
Right. Yeah.
Don't be one of those I used to niggas.
Yeah. I
You
received
know,
I received that, and I think that's a hell of a message because it's a message that I know that I need to allow to permeate, but it's hard for me, and it's hard for me because my expectations of me are just different than other people's perceptions of what those expectations should
yeah,
be. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes it's hard for those two worlds to meet and mesh. So where I know and I hear what you're saying and I absorb it, and it means a lot to me to see that a person that I grew up with perceives me that way. Like, that's amazing. I just have to work on the piece of convincing myself to be able to mirror that thought, because that's the hard part for me. Because to me, it's always, yeah, I might have done this, but I haven't done that, or I've done this, but not to that level,
right.
or whatever the case is, or I've entered this world, but I'm not important in that world as I want to be. So it's those type of things. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's a constant battle with thyself to convince thyself that you are being progressive, right? It's a constant battle, constant
And
battle.
and so my question is it a self-proclaimed battle? Like, who are you fighting? Like, and
You
you
know
say that
what?
now here's what makes it crazy, right? I just want you to hear me when I say it.
Yeah.
I'm fighting myself about accepting me.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because first of all, you're fighting somebody you could never leave,
True.
who even if you change, you're still going to be them, and your your acceptance and your perception are two different words, right?
Yeah.
Your perception of your success doesn't have to hinder your perception of success.
Correct. Agreed.
And you know what? Here's what I want us to do. I want to pour into you as much as I can and tell you, hey, look, I get it, brother. If you don't see yourself as being that guy, so forth and so on, nigga, I'm not gonna convince you that you are. I'm not gonna be in your ear every day like, hey, you're amazing, so forth
Yeah.
and so on. But what I will remind you is that you're not normal. You ain't like everybody else. You're built authentically you. You see what I'm saying? And even if you don't take another step tomorrow, where you're at is good enough.
Mm.
And that alone, that self acceptance is a thing, brother.
Yeah.
Because when you're battling against you, how exhausted are you? And where do you hide from the fight?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
where do you let
and
it go?
and and that's a real thing because I do hide. I do become reclusive, right? I do become to the point where I just want to be home. I don't want to be around nobody. I just want to be home. I just want to watch movies. I just want to be in my thoughts. And then because I feel like sometimes, if I go there, it really is not that big of a deal anyway. So I'm just gonna stay in my own space. And those things are struggles and little demons here and there to be like, listen, I'm just better off being at home or being in my own vibe. And you know what? The acceptance piece, although it's difficult, it isn't something that I don't feel is necessary. I don't want anybody to be watching this thinking that I don't get it, because I actually get it. It's just challenging for me to actually put it into play. It's challenging for me to convince myself that those things are true, because my perception of what it's supposed to look like does not match my perception of where I'm at. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? So
it
that's the
does.
struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, man. Once again, we all have our demons that we battle with. You
Yeah.
know, and for somebody who looks at you and imagines that, hey, he's good, he's gonna be great. He thinks he's the shit. He did it, so forth and so on. Would never know that you have these challenges that you're dealing with every day. And so let me and I could be wrong, but some of the things that I had to deal with is because because I am a public figure, because I'm in the limelight, because I was on that stage, and because I do this, because I get on that stage, there were people who felt that they needed to remind me that I wasn't as good as they perceived that I thought I
Mm.
was. So you have people, oh, look at you on nothing. You ain't doing nothing. Oh, man, you think you big shot now, but I don't need you to break me down, because I'm constantly struggling to be this man that I perceive myself to be. I don't need you to break me down. If you knew how humble I was,
Right.
you would try to build me up, because I'm struggling every day just to get up to put on this face. But
I know that all too
yeah,
well. Yep.
and the thing about it is, man, is that this is what they need to see. This is the dude who's struggling, who's trying to get on that stage, or who's going back to the stage, or who's hustling, or who's, got their spot, and they just like, yo, man, like none of it makes a difference. Like I feel like I'm all alone. I'm the only one who feels this way. Nobody understands. Imagine what it looks like for somebody to see somebody who's on the radio show in Atlanta, who's been on MTV, who's the amount of stars and the hands that you shook, the room that your name has entered that you haven't been in, still has these kind of feelings. Like that's what people don't see. And
Right.
that's what we got to get to, because I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I get it. But I have to be honest. I also am one of the people who would be frustrated with you to say, yo, come on, man. Stop.
Yeah.
Smell the flowers.
Yeah.
Stop. Look at yourself. Look what you did. Because one of the reasons that even now I can still hold my shoulders back after all the failures that I have been through and currently going through now is accepting and knowing that I have done some amazing things, and I have moved some people, and I have changed some lives. I have done that. And I ain't talking about the money, because the money comes and goes.
Yeah.
But who can you influence? I got people who would call me out of the blue and tell me that I inspired them, that I like, that's the shit that feeds your soul.
Yeah.
When you said that you wanted to be on this show, and there was, God moves and we don't question him. There's a reason you were supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Because we go back over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we're both in this conversation, and I'm looking at you and I'm saying, wow, what an amazing brother. And to know that we were in alignment.
Back then.
So when we get to the top and we're at the awards show and we look over and they be like, you know him? Like, oh, we went to school together.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? But also, when I see you at your highest self, man, and you're good and you're great, that's when the success comes. It's not about the people who told you that you made a difference in their life. It's about when you've made a difference for you in your life, and you've done everything that you said you were going to do. Your promise to your father, man, you've upheld that. Now the next promise should be to yourself.
Yeah. And that's the part to work on, G. That's the part that I struggle with on a daily basis, because again, it's all about that vision and perception, because that vision and perception for me of what I wanted it to look like, or wanted to look like for me, is sometimes you feel like it's right there,
Yeah.
but it's still so far away. You know what I'm saying? Like I can see it, but there's whatever that barrier. Yeah, I can see it. And there's been times let me be honest. There have been times where I felt like I was right, right there, and then something would happen, right? Or, okay, I'm on this trajectory where I'm gonna end up being one of the mainstays in this game, and then something would happen. You know what I mean? Or, you get told how talented you are. Man, you sound like this, and when you do this, it's like that. But then I'm like, well, why isn't that stuff equating to more ascension for me? And so then it makes it difficult for me to believe what people say, because I'm the type of person, I'm a Capricorn. I'm the type of person where if you're going to tell me something, you got to show me it's true, because that's the only thing I can see is what I can see. If you're going to tell me, Jay, you're great, but I don't see no examples of me being great, I don't believe it. You know what I'm saying? I'm a very matter of fact type of a person. And so the things that I see in the surroundings that I have or whatever, you made a good point. You said you've been in rooms and you've shaken hands of these people, but I wanted to be the person whose hand the other person was proud to shake.
And you have been. You just don't acknowledge it, brother.
Yeah.
And you have been. You just don't see it that way. Remember what your perception of the radio was like before you got to the radio?
Yeah.
Then you got there and you was like, oh shit. Like this is more this is more of this than it is of that.
Yeah.
That's your idea of success. Like you get there and you're like, oh, well this is more of this than that. Like I want to be that person.
Yeah.
I want to be that person on the other side of the room. But you got to remember, at some point, there's somebody that walked in that room who was just happy to shake your hand. And you know, and so, you know, we could go back and forth with this, man. And I know that your ambition is going to keep you moving, and you're going to stay struggling and striving to do what you need to do. But all bullshit aside, it's time.
Yeah.
All of that, I want to be. I did, nigga, you are. And let me correct that. I apologize, brother. You are. You know what I'm saying? All of that, I'm going to be. You didn't know you are, and that's your acceptance.
Yeah.
And see that self-esteem, like Cat Williams said, is esteem of yourself.
Yeah.
And what it sounds like, my God, is that you've mentioned all of these names of these amazing people, but there's somebody who's put your name in a list of people they met and hands they shaken and they went to school with who's now successful. And you deserve to know that. But at the same time, you kicking the can around ain't gonna change that next statement. And you got it. You know what I mean? So this ain't we know what it is. You gonna win. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna put one on you. Not only are you gonna win, but you're gonna win and you're gonna open the door for people like me. And we gonna be moving there. I'm happy to virtually shake your hand.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And this show will move on and it will go forward. And this is the precedence that has been set. And we'll have more conversations about what things look like and how things move and in pocket. And there's somebody who's going to watch this, if not now, who's going to watch it later and say, yo, man, let's get in touch with that guy. Let's do this again.
Yeah.
And your steps are predestined, man. The difference between the man who wins and the one who loses, one gave up too soon.
Yep.
Yes, sir. And you want to hear some real, I got wisdom, brother. You know, I'm a poet. So
I see.
So, hey, check this out. A wise man told me that nothing lasts forever, even failure. Keep doing what you're doing, and eventually you'll default into success.
Damn, that's deep, bro.
Nothing
Like,
lasts forever.
I'm sitting here registering that. Like, I'm sitting here processing that statement. Like, damn, that there's so many layers to that. You know what I'm saying? Well received. Well received.
So, with that being said, what I want to do, man, is I want to open it up to the people who's actually watching. You know, we have people who come in and go, and my what we know is going to happen is that most people are going to look at this later, watch it at a later time, and have more stuff. But for if anybody who's in here now, if you have any questions for this man, go ahead and put your questions in the comment. We might even bring you up on the screen to ask the question if you feel like you're decent enough.
Yeah.
But if y'all have any questions for him, if you know him from back in the day and want to say hello, what's up, feel free to put your questions in the comments. And just let me know if you have any questions for me, then we could always go that way too. And while we on it, brother, do you have any questions for me?
Nah, man. You know what? I that's something I want to say though. I don't have any questions, but I want to commend you for a couple of reasons, right?
Yes,
for one, when I've been watching you on social media forever, and I was always wondering, like, I wonder if G remembers me. Like, I wanted to reach out to you a couple of times because, bro, it's been a long time. You know what I mean? And I knew about the poetry excels that you have done. I knew about because I remember that from back then when India was in school with us and all that. Like, I remember all of that. You know what I'm saying? And I always look at you and say, if there was ever somebody that I would have loved to continue to cultivate a brotherhood with from those years to now, it would have been you. And there's a couple of reasons why. The elements that you were a part of in high school, you know, the street life mixed with the fusion of the school life, because you was cool with both worlds. And there are very few people that were cool with both worlds like that. You know what I mean? You had like Leland and Harold, you know what I'm saying? And you had Wes and you had you, but the embrace that you had for both of the worlds and the respect was something I was always curious about. Like, how do you do that how do you do that? Because to be able to toggle between those two worlds like that and be highly respected in both, that's not something everybody can do. And I remember we used to talk about you back in the day, me and Brian and Marcus, because it was always, you refer to certain people like, yeah, that dude, he do his thing over there, but he cool. Like, I know I could walk up to him and he cool. The other ones, be like, don't F with them dudes over there. You know what I'm saying? Because all they're going to do is do stupid stuff and say stupid stuff, and they fighting and shooting people all the time, and, you know, all that type of mess. But you were always that standout dude that we knew we could approach, like, kind of as a big brother, and you would listen to us. But then you go do your thing in whatever world you was gonna do it in. And that's something that I always wanted to commend you on. And so one of the main reasons when I saw this, I said, yo, I want in, is because I always wanted to be able to tell you that. I always wanted to be able to tell you that you made an impression on me and the brothers back then that has transpired over the course of our lives and gave us an understanding as to how comfortable you can feel with a person who you know is going to keep you protected. You know what I'm saying? And that's like a dope shell to live in. You know what I mean? It's really a cool place to live. So I'm thankful to now be able to tell you that, like man to man, like bro, like the impression that you made because of how you used to treat us. You know what I'm saying? And how you used to walk the halls with that level of respect and that level of admiration is incredible. You know what I mean? So I just want you to understand that. You know what I mean? Secondly, all of the gems that you've given me over the course of the last hour and a half are gems that not only were awesome to hear, but they were gems that I needed to hear at this particular moment. And which is probably why you saw the looks on my face like, oh, no, he's not doing that. Because these are things that are my main mental struggles. And for you to be able to tap into that, and we had a conversation in years, is a direct testament to what your abilities are, right? And so I appreciate you for that, brother.
Look, man. For one, I'm humble. Thank you. You know what I mean? And one of the things that just thank you. You know, the reason I was able to walk them halls that way, man, is because I was amongst those who had it. I had nothing.
Yeah.
And if people knew, they would have looked at me different. You know.
Yeah.
But I had to be comfortable knowing that at any moment it was what it was. I wasn't no better than the freshman or the dude who had nothing, or and the dude who had everything wasn't no better than me.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that I always, and I still do feel like my intentions was always good. And if you ever crossed me and we ever got into it, it's because you deserved it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I've been wild, but at the same time, man, I've always been real humble in the sense of brotherhood. But I've always been real confident in who I was, and a lot of people, when you get older, look at that as an issue. And the same thing that you applaud me for is the same reason that a lot of niggas can't stand me. Some people hate me because of the comfortability, because of I was able to be that, and I've always kept that. So I'm glad that you've seen that. And as far as like the conversation and tapping in, this is why we wanted to do it, man. It was real talk.
Yeah.
But this was my God-given gift, like you being on the radio, like you excelling in your talent, like you doing the meteorologist thing that we didn't even really tap into too much.
Yeah.
But just all the things that you excel in, man. Like this is my gift, and I'm glad that you chose to be with me on this platform. Because to tell you the truth, we might want to have one or two conversations to see what it looks like after this and how we move it further. And what it looks like. Because I'll tell you, if the rappers could do it, some real guys who going through life could do it as well. And yeah, man, just thank you. Thank you for being for even receiving those words, because a lot of the things I'm saying to you is things that I've had to say to myself, and I'm going to look back on this and might need to take that advice myself, because we're still going through it, brother.
Absolutely.
I'm nowhere close to where I want to be, but you want to know what's crazy? Jewel coming. You ready for this?
Yeah.
I get that the struggle is the struggle of your perception of where you're going, but I want you to acknowledge that yesterday's ceilings are today's floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one point, tomorrow's ceilings will be that day's floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember that.
Yep.
Remember that,
Agree.
brother. That the struggles, and I told somebody this today, struggling to pay a car note on your Tesla as compared to struggling to try to get a Buick is still a struggle. It's just different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And the struggle ain't going to change, man, but the levels do. And that's what I want you to recognize, that the struggle is always going to be there. You're always going to reach for better and more. That's who you are. That's why you're where you at. But don't forget to acknowledge that the struggle you have today, used to be your dream in high school. Used to be your dream in college. The struggle
Right.
that you have today
You're right. You're right.
used to be your dream.
You're absolutely right.
That,
That's true.
so I don't know, man. Let's break some ceilings. Let's open up the ceiling. Let's continue to move forward. And I would like to, if you don't mind, I would like to stay in touch with you, bro. I would like to
Absolutely.
have you back on the show. I would like for us to do some of these shows together. I would like for us to just stay in communication, man. And I'm talking about, I got some things that we need to pop out on and move around on. You know, I MC too, right? You know, I do the MC thing. Hey, let's get it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with the synergies being what they are, man, ain't no reason that we can't win. And I am here in full support of everything that you got going on. I back you 110%, brother. Not only am I here to help you, but I could use your help because
Absolutely.
it gets real lonely. And there's times that I want to close that door and step out of myself too, my nigga, but I don't know how.
Yeah.
So maybe that's when we need to get on the phone and have that conversation. You know?
Absolutely, bro. I'm here, and the same thing, bro. Like, yeah, this is a twin energy that's got a lot of potential, man. And I'm actually sorry we didn't do it a long time ago, bro. But now that we're here, you know, let's propel from here.
Hey,
Absolutely.
remember what you said about you in Atlanta move? Like it's the timing,
Yeah.
brother. It's all the time.
Yeah.
And God don't make no mistakes. And once again, as long as we keep persevering, man, we ain't gonna fail.
Yeah.
It's just we can't stop, right? So I wonder, does anybody have any questions for us, man? Anybody got any questions for you on here? Um, and my mama's in here. Hey, mama.
What? Hey,
She
mama.
came and check it out. Yeah,
Hey,
man.
mama.
All the way back from Rangeview. Jesus.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's just crazy to think about that, bro. Because the last time I was home, I drove by the school and I was like, damn, it seems like so long ago, but it seems like yesterday at the same time.
Man, look, it's so crazy. I'm grown, bro. I'm grown, but I feel like nobody told me it would move this quick. It's almost
Correct.
like I could still feel it. I could still smell it. I can still see it. Now, you know, my teenage years, it got real bad. You know, it got real bad towards the end of it. You know, right after high school and all of that, it got real ugly. But I was blessed, brother. I was blessed to, you know, never went to jail a day in my life. You
Yeah.
know, never had a felony on my record. No, nothing like that. My mother is still alive. You know, my daughter is beautiful, brother. She's gorgeous. I got 2 grandbabies. I'm a papa.
Wow, you pop.
I'm papa. Man,
Hell
look,
yeah, that's
I got
awesome,
I
bro.
got I got 2 grandbabies, man. Lyric and London. London, the
That's gotta feel good.
oldest. Lyric is beautiful young lady, man. I'm him, and they love me. I
Yeah,
wasn't supposed to be this,
yeah,
man. You know, and I've stood on stages with some of the biggest names. I've interviewed some of the biggest names and shooken hands and did all of that, and I'm still here.
yeah,
But my floor used to be my ceiling.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That's
look, man,
amazing, bro. That's
I appreciate you. We're gonna stay in touch. We're gonna follow up because we got some more conversations to have. We just don't want to keep running it all night.
yeah.
Um,
We'll
if there's anything you
do.
need me to do, man, you know, I'm in Houston, so you know, if you swing down this
I'm
way,
about to say,
tap in.
hey, I need to come. I never been to Houston, so I've never been there.
Well, so
I've
here's the
been
thing.
I've been through there on like a layover, but I ain't never been there.
Nah, listen. Remember when I told you my struggles is a little bit different and how my floor is my
Yeah.
ceiling? I might have 1 or 2 rooms available for you. The struggle's different, bro.
Get them ready, bro, because I will come to Houston. Hey, listen, I would love to come to Houston. I've heard
well,
great things about
well,
Houston. Like
here's the thing,
amazing.
though. We're gonna have 1 or 2 business meetings that may need some paperwork signed anyway. And just keep in mind, you got a room at my house.
Now, same thing here, brother. If you're in the A, let me know. I give you the code to the front door. You good?
Hey, man, I don't know what part of Atlanta you in, but me and Atlanta ain't got along too well. I got some all my poets is out there, Georgia, me, Red Storm, and Abyss, all of them. My guys is out there, the Deadly Pens. But man, me and Atlanta,
You got you got to massage your way around here, bro. Like you gotta, you know what I mean? You gotta.
I might have
It's a little
showed up
different.
in the wrong spaces. I might have to show up with you so you
Yeah,
can show me what it really moves like. But
yeah. I'm. Hey,
yeah, but
I got I got plenty of space for you, bro. And it might be good for me, man, because all I do is be at home. I don't have no reason to really go nowhere too much. And maybe you come in town. My brother's here. We change that. Who knows? You know
Hey,
what I mean?
look, and don't threaten me, brother, because I vacation and I get out the country. You say you ain't got no kids, and
No kids, no wife, no none of that.
all right. Well, now look, I got my person. I got mine.
That's
But at the same
dope.
time, brother, it's family. Don't worry. We'll get on that line.
Yeah.
First of all, let me tell you, black man to black man, I appreciate this conversation. And for those who are listening, if you have brothers, sisters, sons, family members who go through the struggles of wanting to be successful and trying to figure it out and not feeling like they have the answers, please show this to them and let them know that even people who we deem as being successful have their struggles with what they feel is success. And that everybody has a story and a back end, and that if you are a single mother raising a man, that you can do it. Look at the examples on this screen. Successful black men, not the thugs and the rappers who sold dope to get here. We're talking about those who did it. It can be done. And also for the men who are watching this, just do know you could have your conversation, and we're here for that conversation. So tap in, send us the Instagram and message and let us know that you want to be a part of the show. And ladies, you're more than welcome to do it too. But for the mental health aspect of it, just know that there's always somebody there to talk to, and there's somebody who may be able to tap in, right?
Absolutely.
That's what we're here for.
Yes, sir.
Look, I love you, man. And hear me when I say this. I love you, brother. 20 plus years to see you being successful, to see you looking good, to see you where you are. That, to me, lets me know that our era wasn't completely lost.
I dig that. I love you too, man. I appreciate the tutelage and the coaching and all of that, man. Let's, continue to cultivate this relationship further and further, man. Like, I think that, it's immensely helped me in just this last hour. So I can imagine the type of gems I can pick up from you moving forward. So I appreciate you for that, brother.
Hey, man. And here's the thing, though. Remember that whole giving it back and seeing how people relate to you? Maybe this would be our platform or a way that we could give it back to the world. We could get that you're asking for. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Let's work. I respect you, brother. Have a good night.
You too, brother.
Stay in touch.
Be good.
Though.
Let's do it.
All right.
Real.
Hey, real talk.
Right.
We out.
Later.
Yeah.